Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
What's
up, brother?
How's
going
it
on, guys?
brother?
What's going on, dude?
Oh, man, while you guys were doing that, I was scrolling through some old photos of Tank, my biggest target buck that I'm after, and I'm ready for deer season. I don't know about y'all, but...
Yeah, now that turkey season's over and can really start throwing the bait on the ground and filling feeders again, because my properties ain't really big enough. I can't feed deer during turkey season because I can't get far enough away from where I feel like I would be safe from getting a ticket. So I don't ever feed from up until now. But now that turkey season's gone,
it's time.
It's time to start getting some inventory. My wife yesterday on her way home said that a buck jumped out of our woods, crossed the dirt road into the neighboring property, and he was well outside the ears. So I was like, yep, I've got to get the cameras out. I've got to put some batteries in some cameras and start trying to find out what's where.
I got a 300-pound feeder and have filled it. Now it's empty twice. So,
what are you running? What are you filling it with?
Right now I ran it for protein and I dropped salt and mineral in the ground. So, that's what I've been feeding. And yes, I have one or two that I showed Eric the other day. They got some knobs on the end right at the ears, and this week they were looking a little bigger. So, that's pretty cool. I'm pretty cool with that. I got another piece of property I ain't even got a camera on yet, so I got to get over there and look at that piece of property. But let's get backtrack a little bit. Eric, tell Robbie how to pronounce your last name.
Yeah, please.
Oh, man. So there's two ways to do it. You can do it the Polish way, which is Ciechowski, or you can do it the Americanized version, which is Ciechowski. It doesn't matter. It's right either way. I've been saying Ciechowski for 28 years, and I just figured out how to actually say it right. So,
Ciechowski. I think that's what I'm going with.
Ciechowski. That's right.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to say than it is to spell, I'll tell you that.
Yep.
Yeah, how long and at what grade were you in when you were able to finally spell your last name correctly?
Dude, honestly, I've had family, like my wife's family has asked me that before, and I really can't remember, but I want to say I had to have been, honestly, probably kindergarten when I learned how to write.
I was in the 9th grade when I finally learned how to spell my name.
I just learned after college.
It was last week.
It was pretty early on, man. Honestly, a last name like that, you kind of have to learn it early.
Yeah, because you got to explain
it. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's been a little tough, especially getting having a podcast now for almost 2 years and getting to meet everybody that I've been able to meet, and I almost feel like they think I'm some Ukrainian businessman or something when I reach out to them because of the last name. There's been a few times where they're like...
I did ask him where he's from.
Yeah. I was born in Chicago, so I'm a damn Yankee, unfortunately.
Well, you live south now, so...
I explained to him what a damn Yankee was. See, a Yankee is just guys come to visit. Damn Yankees come to stay. So.
That's me. That's me, man.
But anyway, like we announced before, you have a lot of different podcasts out with a lot of different celebrities in the archery industry. So what made you want to start a podcast?
Well, I when I first started hunting about, it'd probably be about 5.5 years ago. I literally went 100% in, right? So I started in 2019, killed my first deer, my first sit, by the grace of God. It wasn't anything big, but after that, dude, I was hooked. So I would talk about it to my wife and my family all the time.
You need somebody else to talk to.
Yeah, I did. And so, I started listening to podcasts, and I found Working Class. And those guys
are fun.
I love those dudes.
Who had a chance and opportunity to hang out with a couple of them.
Yep.
Not going to go in depth in where we were.
They're great
at an
guys
ATA. Had an absolute blast hanging out with them. They
no
are
doubt,
a hoot.
no
Yeah.
doubt about it. We hung. It was something else. Those guys are great. And then you start listening to them, and they're like average Joe. You know,
Yeah. So they
They're no
were.
different than the rest of us.
that's right.
Yeah, exactly. So like I've had Kurt on a few times, and like I like to consider him a friend now. You know, if I call him or text him, he'll answer, and it's kind of crazy looking. Like 5 years ago, I'm listening to this podcast, like, oh, dude, these guys are cool. It'd be really nice to know them. And 5 years later, I literally can call them anytime I want. But I give them most of the credit because it's not only wanting to talk with guys that are like minded or interested in what I'm into, but they are or were. I mean, Kurt now does it full time, but back then, and he's still working class, but back then he was doing the same thing we're doing, 9 to 5, and then he goes and does the podcast stuff. And so I was like, man, I really think I should do this. So I thought about it for like 2 years, and finally, talked to my wife and was like, listen, if I don't start this now, I'm never going to do it.
Right.
And I will I will say this: if you listen to the very first episode, don't. It's terrible.
No, you have
It's
to.
so bad.
Well,
I mean,
it's no different than anything that you do. There's always growing pains. There's always
yeah,
lessons that you learn as you go and do. You get better as you do. I mean, it's like filming hunts and going from one camera to another. There's a learning curve. So yeah, I mean,
yeah.
there's always a learning curve.
Oh, you
It's
want to
just
trade back so you can get this camera since you know everything. I'll get the new one.
oh, there you
No.
go.
Okay.
um,
This is actually my webcam again, and it's not the camera. The camera works great. It's just something in the system. So I'm gonna rig it up the other way because I don't like this.
Yeah, I'm actually looking, and I know we are early on. I mean, we're like 7 seconds into this deal and
Yep.
going down a rabbit hole. I'm actually looking at a DJI Pocket 3.
Hey, I told you that's a freaking nice. My
I
little
know.
Pocket 2 is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I know.
You take some
And
matter of fact, I'm glad you said that. So at the conclusion of this, not only will this video go up onto our YouTube channel, and it'll probably go up onto Southeastern Podcast YouTube channel, but I am also pushing out the first section of our shoot together
over at
at Clybell with the podcast.
hey,
So
nice.
I have it ready. It's actually there. It'll go out, and then that way we can hopefully tag team it, talk about it, everybody hear it. Maybe it'll get a few more views. Who knows? But it's going to be a quick and simple, just shows around and video background, and not really listening to us, just watching people.
I need y'all to start doing these kind of events on Sundays so I can drive up.
Dude,
We're going to next year. We'll be on Sunday.
We have worked on this and worked on this. So we have been collaborating to put it all together as one big monstrosity. And if it may turn into a 2-day thing, who knows? But yeah, Sunday is what's going to happen because a lot of guys were working, and they're like, man, if I wasn't working.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier today about something slightly different, but it being on Saturday, and you know as well as I do, Saturdays are so hard for us to be able to participate because it's our Friday.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Sorry, guys.
No, it ain't. No, you ain't got no room to
your
apologize. It's just the industry that we're in. It's our career.
Yep.
But for us, Saturday is our Friday, so we miss out on a lot of things just simply because of that. I mean, I don't know any way to change it. I can't burn up 97 vacation days to do things on Saturdays because I don't have 97 vacation days.
Me and you both, brother. Me and you both.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that sounds a lot like what I did with Georgia Archery. I mean, everybody knows that what I started with Georgia Archery is I used to keep a calendar and I would go and search where all the shoots were.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got people calling me saying, hey, you know where the shoots are, where are they at, who's shooting when? And I got to the point, it's like, hey, I'm just going to throw a website up. And so I threw a website up with the calendar so everybody could see it, and then turned around, and it's just grown from there. I did it from 2011 till 2015, and then I took the job at Ace, and it was a big it was a big change. Ace I had to start doing and building and doing things that trying to get everything going. So I sort of fell to the back, and then we got Robbie in working, and Robbie's
I
like,
don't
man,
know why you did that.
he said, I'd take him back in a heartbeat tomorrow. There's no doubt in my
uh,
mind.
Somebody, I was
that's
talking to somebody
funny.
earlier this week, and they're like, dude, you just don't know how much you're missed. I'm like, well, that's mutual.
They talk about you all the time. John even
I
gets
don't,
like a little tear sometimes. It's
See?
you got to
it's
get a
rough.
tattoo, bro.
Yeah.
It's rough. But
Um,
yeah, I'm glad you do the podcast though, John, because like when you told me you did it, I honestly didn't even know,
yeah.
and it's it's nice to see like especially somebody I know doing this too and getting to like collaborate on it,
Yep.
and it just adds to the whole thing. Like you were asking me why I did this.
Hmm.
Well, it's mainly to, of course, I'd love for this to be like a full time thing, right?
Oh, wouldn't
Um,
we all?
yeah, it'd be great, but it's like I also did it because I wanted to get to know more people that are in the industry that hunt. And I mean, the ironic thing to me, and the reason I brought up the first episode earlier was if you go back to that, I'm pretty sure I say, as long as I can get T-Bone on one time, man, I'm happy. I don't care what happens with this. And now he's been on 3 times. And
Yeah.
it's like,
That's awesome.
it's crazy seeing, and I'm not saying that to like hype myself up or anything, but it's crazy to see where you start at and where it goes.
The
Oh,
You know,
growth, man.
and like with you guys, you told me about a guest that you were thinking about getting on, and I was like, oh wow, that's like a big one. This was maybe a month ago,
yep.
and I just like seeing that, dude. I like seeing people be successful. I don't, and that sort of
Well,
leads me into the whole divide we have in the industry, or not in the industry, but in the community.
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying? And
and
Well,
we can use working class, not,
yep.
working class as a metric to gauge against. I mean, those guys started no different than where you are or where we are,
exactly.
and yet look where they are now.
Yep.
And
Oh, for
I
sure.
used to follow a gentleman, and I still do, but not as closely as I used to.
Hmm.
That always had a saying is how bad do you want it? It
Yep.
doesn't matter what it is, And I used that slogan when my wife was going through nursing school.
Yep.
How bad do you want this?
That's right.
And when you ask yourself that and you answer it, at that point, whether how just how deep you're going to go into something or whatever it is. Look, I mean, you've had T-Bone, MFJJ, and Gillingham, and I
That's
don't know
three.
whom else, but that's
Oh, it's
three
four.
really good big names in the industry. I mean, I was doing some podcasts early on, and I've had Terry Rom, which is great. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, Terry's
Terry
awesome.
is a
Yeah.
turkey hunting legend, and then Mr. Tommy Walton. And I thought I was on cloud nine with those two gentlemen.
That's right.
And then I look at the notes that John's got. And he's like T-Bone. Hell, I tried to get him, couldn't happen. MFJ,
Really?
no, I'm not interested.
What?
Gillingham,
Huh.
he not well. I don't know if that's a discussion that we want to get in here, but
Oh, but
No,
it's
it's
yeah.
it's it's fine.
um, not that he's a bad guy by no means, because I don't think he is. Just
Who?
yeah, our bow working on methods may slightly vary,
Oh,
Yeah.
and
everybody's
he's a
different.
little high strung.
Oh, you talking about Gillingham?
No, I'm talking about
Oh,
MFJJ.
MFJJ. Well,
Oh.
I tell you, MFJJ is a different monster, but he's on a different coast.
Yeah, now
Hmm.
T-Bone. Yeah, Travis is a great
Travis is
dude.
down
Travis
like
is
four
as,
flat tires.
as good
There's
as
no doubt
as
about
good
it.
as they come.
Yep. And
Yeah, T-Bone is my like end all be all. That's why when I did the Arrow series earlier this year, I
yep,
Hmm.
started with I'm pretty sure Troy
yep.
Ranchberry and ended
Transferry.
with T-Bone. And I'm like, dude, everything I've thought, you're just completely agreeing with everything that I had already said is the whole middle ground, 450, 500 for the average guy. And T-Bone's like, yeah, that's perfect. I'm like,
Okay.
okay. So I just spent a whole month and a half for no reason to get that.
But
Yep.
But
And how much money did you spend, wasted, if you will? And maybe it wasn't wasted, but
time.
how much time and or money that you're not utilizing did you spend to get back to the middle ground?
man, over the 3.5 years that I've been building my own arrows, probably it's in the thousands. I know that much.
To wind up right back at the 450 to
Yeah,
500 grain arrow to do everything that you needed to do for a whitetail. Yep.
exactly. And,
And
and the
I've,
thing is, that will also work for when I go out west.
oh yeah, for
Like
sure.
that weight is perfect for it. So
For
I don't
sure.
know, man. Everyone, and I've said it before, but everyone is going to use what works for them. If you want to use a Ranch Fairy 1,000 grain arrow, by all means, go ahead.
Mhm.
You want to use a Tim Gillingham 325 grain arrow to 33-inch draw at 70 pounds, by all means, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I don't care what you use. If it
And,
works, it works.
And that's how I like not pursue, but that's how I talk to my customers in my shop. It's whatever you got confidence in. Just because it works for me doesn't necessarily mean that that needs to be your perfect setup.
Yep.
But one thing that the Ranch Fairy doesn't often talk about, or at least I don't think he does, because I don't watch near as much of it as I used to. For everybody's midpoint is different. If you're a 27-inch draw length shooting a 60-pound bow, and I'm 29 and a half shooting 70, our midpoints ain't the same.
Not at all.
You know?
Not at all.
480 to 500 is where I want to be at my setup. Somebody shooting 60 pounds at 27 don't need to be 480 to kill a whitetail. I can promise you. I've got a kid that is 9 years old. His father and himself are customers of mine. 9 years old, 31 pounds of draw length, or 31 pounds of draw weight, 20 and a half inches of draw length, complete pass through on a 120-ish pound doe this year at 15 yards.
Yeah.
With an arrow weight that may have been 330 grains. Maybe.
Yeah.
Max. That's on the high side, probably.
So that middle of the road is different for every archer. And I live in the middle of the road. I don't want super light, even though I have killed deer with a PSE X-Force at 324 foot a second, sub 400 grain arrow.
Yep.
Back in 2007 or 8, whatever it was. But I have also killed them with 550 grains. And you know what wound up? You know what the common denominator was? Pass through, and the arrow was in the dirt on the other side. And I can't tell you. I can't tell you that one was any further in the ground than the other.
That's right.
Well, and what does T-Bone always say?
I don't.
You know.
Honestly, and I know this is going to sound bad, but I spend every day, 5 days a week, working on these things and selling these things.
Yeah.
I don't go and spend as much time as listening to some of these other guys, like somebody that doesn't do it 5 days a week. So
what he
this
said,
may be a trick question. I may know it at the end, but
it kind of is. It kind of is, but it's kind of not, because I've had this argument with everybody that is in like my little hunting group, I guess you could say. All my buddies, Troy, everyone. And the one thing that I always circle back to is no matter what you're shooting, accuracy always wins.
Absolutely.
So that's again what got me to the whole 450, 500 thing, because I'm shooting 68 pounds, 27.5-inch draw. I probably could get away with a little bit lighter, but if I'm confident with that mid range, then I don't understand.
Good. Does what you need to do.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I made a post Saturday, I think it was, because I got my mount back from the deer that I killed this past year. Hush, John.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Look, I'm not going there. If y'all want to go there, then I'll. But listen, all right.
I'm
so
going
I got
on
my
your
mount
page
back,
to see this.
And
as soon as we're done.
I killed this deer. He was when we weighed him 18 hours later, because when I killed him that night, I knew that I was going to mount him. I wanted some good photos. I've never had just good quality photos of a big deer that I'd ever killed.
Just dropped him in the cooler.
So I carried him to the processor, which is the same gentleman that mounted him, Hunter Futch at Lee Processor in Lee County, Georgia. Did an outstanding job all the way around.
Looks good.
When I got there, I was like, "Hey, dude, I want to take some pictures tomorrow. Whatever you think we need to do in order to do that." He's like, "Well, we won't even gut him. We'll just slide him in the cooler." I wasn't going to eat him at 200, and he weighed 227 pounds the day after. I wasn't eating him, no way. With all that being said, we didn't weigh him. We just drug him in. He threw him in the cooler. I got back the next morning at like 11 o'clock, met the photographer over there. Nick took some pictures. When we loaded him back on the truck and carried him back over to the dock, I asked Hunter, I said, "Hey, man, can you weigh him? I'm just curious." Well, 12-ish, no, more than that, because I got there at like 10:30, 11 o'clock that morning. I shot the deer at like 6:45, so 14, 15 hours later, the deer weighed 227. Now, I shot this deer with a 495 grain arrow shooting a real big mechanical broadhead.
What kind of broadhead?
I didn't have 650 grains of arrow, and I wasn't shooting some small fixed blade broadhead. I shot him with a 2-inch 3-blade rear deploying mechanical broadhead, the G5 Megameat, which everybody knows
Sir.
I will
Yes,
shoot.
sir.
And
And
the
it
arrow
did
was
everything. Do what?
And where was the arrow?
Stuck on the ground on the other side,
Oh, okay.
laying next to another arrow that had just went through a doe about
Oh,
an hour and
yep.
a half earlier that also was a complete pass through.
That's right.
It made a mess of in the corn pile and killed a deer.
Yeah.
So, you guys know what I'm thinking.
I'll go for it. Look, this is your half of the. This is your half of the
I
show.
know.
Just go on and
I
dig.
know.
Look, this is where I'm gonna bail out.
Nope.
No.
Because
Hey, no. Look, me and Thor talked about this last week. All right. So, if for those who didn't listen to last week's episode, we touched on the C.J. Alexander buck and this situation with hemorrhage broadheads. I'm just going to say it outright. Everyone already knows that the owner of said company he seems to be bashing a lot of other broadhead companies. And, my opinion on that is, like, look, I work with VPA. All right. I don't even shoot mechanicals anymore. But before I got with VPA, I was shooting a Megameat. And I've had one problem with that broadhead, and it was user error. It was not the broadhead. So to see that post and say, oh, this is the worst broadhead out there, blah, 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 and I'm like, really? I'm like, dude, first off, the video that you connected that post with, the kid dry fires his bow. So if you're going to film yourself do that, post it in the video, whether it's for giggles or not, you kind of lose credibility with me at that point. I understand that thing. It happens, right? Like, yeah, that happens. But you're doing a test on a broadhead in some of the worst mediums possible. There's only one good medium I've personally seen, and that's from Joe Miles doing his broadhead test. That makes the most sense. But it's like, you pair your post up with that video, and then you're bashing the literal highest selling broadhead for the past 5 years. It doesn't get to that point without being a good broadhead.
No.
And the deer you see behind me on the wall, I killed him with one. With a bow that shot, I was maybe shooting 200 foot a second. Like, dude, they're so good. And if Ryan hears this from VPA, I think he'll understand. But those broadheads, if you're going to compare them to a fixed blade, you can't really do that. Because comparing a mechanical to a fixed blade like that post was doing, you're comparing apples to oranges.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And let me backtrack a little bit, and not to interrupt. The reason why I brought up the deer that I posted on Saturday and the post that I made wasn't necessarily about the broadhead itself, but it was the arrow weight. So I'm shooting a 495 grain arrow currently.
Yep.
495, I think it is. It may be 505. Irregardless, it's still middle of the weight or middle of the road.
29 inches.
29 inches on. I shoot my target bow a little bit longer than I shoot my hunt bow, just because of being in a saddle, being in a lock on, being in a climber, whatever. I don't want to be overextended. So I shoot my hunt bow about a half-inch shorter than my target bow.
Yep.
All right. So with all that being said, let's just call it 500 grains for rough math. Shooting a 2-inch 3-blade rear deploying mechanical broadhead. That 500 grain arrow went completely through this 227-pound deer that was thick. Like, I am from here in Southwest Georgia. I moved when I was in my early 20s to the Metro Atlanta area, Social Circle area. Killed a lot of deer up there, don't get me wrong, gun and bows or whatnot, but the deer thickness there, and let's just say for Social Circle, Covington, Madison, Putnam, yeah, you'll come across a big deer. Not like these. I mean, our deer are ag deer here. They're thick. They're thick. Farm-fed deer.
Yeah.
So that 500 grain, that 500 grain arrow with a big mechanical broadhead went slammed through that deer like hot butter.
Well, in that broadhead, man, there's so much. Like, I've talked to T-Bone about it. I've talked to Waddell about it. That broadhead has so much engineering put into it. If you look at, like, the blade angle and everything, it makes sense. Now, will a single bevel fixed blade penetrate better? Yeah, of course, because it's two blades, single bevel, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
But I can tell you both, and I know you guys both know this, but for the listeners, I've shot both a single bevel and I've shot the mega meat, and I can tell you finding that deer is much easier when you have a 2-inch hole.
For sure.
Plain and simple.
For sure.
But I will also say I did do the switch, not just because of VPA, but I did do the switch because I had a bad experience. But after looking back on it, because I'm thinking that, like, you know, oh, the broadhead just opened up in flight or whatever, and well, I'm not going to use those anymore. Like, I was mad, right? It was a rough season last year. I'm not going to lie. But, you know, after gut shotting a deer for the first time last year with the mega meat, I felt gut shot, right? Like, I don't like that. I don't want that deer to suffer. It was not a big deer. It was probably a yearling. Totally bad situation. The meat tasted great, but you get what I'm saying? So yeah, I put a bad taste on it.
Wait, back up. You gut shot a deer, but you ate the meat. So that means you still recovered your
You
animal.
still found it.
Oh yeah. And so that's what I was getting at. Is yes, the broadhead had a quote unquote mechanical failure, if you want to say that, for the people that want to argue this. But if you look back on it, had I have made that same shot with a fixed blade, never would have found the deer. It would have taken twice as long to die, and there would not have been a hole the size of my fist.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only reason that broadhead opened up is because I didn't change the retaining collar. Because I didn't
already
think.
Used it. Yep.
Exactly. It's the exact same head that I killed this deer behind me with.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, it worked last time, and I
Clean
learned
it
from
out.
that.
Yeah.
So,
But see, that's neither here nor there. And I'll go back to it because I know the man, and I've told him, you know, we've known each other for years.
mm-hmm.
But I don't care who you are, bashing another product to make yours look better. I don't care if it is better, but to bash somebody else's, it's not good. I work in an archery shop. Robbie works in an archery shop. Am I ever going to say, well, you ain't going to go down there because they did da? Nope, I'm not. I will turn around and say, hey, are you in that area? You go see Robbie. Hey, are you in that area? Go see whoever, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're all in this archery. The archery community is too small to bash everybody.
Right.
Yep.
And that's my biggest, and I'm not, like, if y'all want to go down that rabbit hole, go for it.
No.
I'm not, I said what I was going to say
No.
on social media on the original post.
That's all I was going to say is that it's too
You
small.
don't build a product
No.
by
Off of bashments.
bashing a product. And here's my, and this is like legitimate reasons why I shoot a mega meat. Okay. This past year, I killed 11 deer with my bow. So there was 11 deer that went in the back of my truck because of a mega meat. I will not try to shoot one tight to the shoulder. I just won't do it. When I can shoot a hole the size roundabouts of a baseball, between a baseball, a golf ball, and a baseball.
Oh, that's kind of hard.
I saw that. It was
Sorry.
kind of cool. Thank you. I love you too. When I can shoot a hole in a deer from the size of a golf ball to a baseball and go to my deer afterwards,
Yep.
I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to try to shoot tight to the shoulder, because if you look, and I know this from at least from a processor standpoint too, because I know a couple of them around here too, and they all tell me the same thing, not to mention a guy that has a thermal drone that finds deer with the thermal drone. The most recovered deer are deer that are shot back. May take a little longer.
That's right.
But they're recovered. And the ones that they don't find are the ones that are shot forward. I'm never going to try and shoot a deer forward. Now, I may make a mistake, because the deer don't make a mistake when you shoot at a deer. We, as the archer, the hunter, are the ones that make a mistake. The deer's trying to live, and it's doing whatever it's going to do to try to survive.
100%.
With all that being said, I want to run a real big hole into that animal and let it lay, and I run white on white. I can look at my veins. I can look at my wrap. Probably should have let that one lay. And a lot of times what we think we see, ain't always what we see. Sometimes it is. Sure. And that's one good thing about having white on white is I can that deer's toast. I knew I saw a good shot. This is also, I'm seeing a good shot. Yep, we can go.
It's
probably should back out and wait.
Yep, 2-check process.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, and I know we're probably not going to go down this rabbit hole, but I have to say it, is the whole, like, my reason for bringing this up about, hemorrhage and the mega meat debate and all that, like, again, I don't even shoot either broadhead, but I hate how when I go on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or even YouTube nowadays, all I'm seeing is people bashing one another and dividing the whole community. And it's like, dude, look, Jesus said it best: a house divided cannot stand. Okay,
right.
So if you are going to be doing that, you're not helping the situation.
Well,
and it's like,
and I'll go
it gets under my skin, man. That's
another point. Like I sell a whole bunch of QAD Exodus. I sell a whole bunch of Montec M3s. I sell a bunch of Razes. I just ordered today some of the new B3 exoskeleton or whatever the over the top. I sell several Swackers a year. One of the guys that owns Swacker Broadheads has a farm in the county of which my shop lies in.
Yes, he does.
So do I have a favorite head? Yes, it's the one that I have confidence in. If you come to me and ask me, hey, what do you recommend? I'm going to tell you the Mega Meat because it has done very well for myself. My wife shot a deer with a dead meat this year. The deer didn't run 75, 80 yards. My daughter shot 2 with a crossbow that didn't. Neither one of them deer made 75 yards. Nathan, my son, shot 3 this year and 3 or 4 last year. I mean, so since I've moved back to Southwest Georgia, we have killed 35 deer or so with a mega meat. Now, you have to understand a lot of these are, hey, man, I got to have some does killed. We got to kill X amount of does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
You don't have 35 Pope and Youngs hanging on the wall from one mega meat.
No.
But you're killing deer with it and using it.
Well,
you get to see a lot of hemorrhage, if you will, created by the mega meat.
That's
now,
right.
Here's another thing, and this is where I was going to say a while ago. Early on, when we first opened, we were, I guess it would have been the middle of 2021 deer season. The processor that I spoke of a while ago, Hunter Futch, and his dad, Jeff calls me and he's like, hey, man, what's these broadheads you're selling to everybody? What you mean, Mr. Jeff? I sell a bunch of broadheads. These meat eaters or something. You mean mega meats? Yeah, the mega meat. Yes, sir. It's a G5 mechanical, rear deployment mega broadhead. I mean, that's what I shoot, and I sell a bunch of them. You got any? Yes, sir. All right, I got because he cuts yards too. He's like, I got to cut a couple yards, and I'm coming back by the shop. Can you grab me a couple packs and set them behind the counter? Well, yeah, for sure, not a problem. And when a processor says that to you, it's very eye-opening because they see a lot, far more than a guy behind the counter sees. Because we see our customers, they leave, they come back, they tell us stories. A processor sees the Muzzies and the Rages and the Megas and the Deads and the Trocars and the Exoduses and the U's and the Me's and the I's and the Those. They see it all.
Yep.
For a guy that owns a processor to call and say, hey, I want some of them, to me speaks volumes.
Yep.
I mean, y'all should have seen when I shot Pickles over here. I took him up to New Bern Taxidermy, right?
Well,
and
he shoots mega meats.
Exactly. Dude, I showed up with that deer, and he was like, oh, my God. I was like, yeah, bro. And then, so now, obviously, Jay Maxwell goes up there and uses Chip, and I've become friends with Chip, too. And
Chip's a good guy.
Chip's awesome, man. I'm supposed to get him on the podcast, but it
just not works out. Yep.
Well, there's been a lot going on. But, excuses aside, I went up there last season and saw every single deer. And I didn't do this, intentionally, just so kind of happened this way. But I saw every single deer that Jay Maxwell shot with a mega meat. And each one of them dead as a doornail, good shot, and just blown open.
Well, that's a point that I will say. And I tell you what I think, and this has nothing to do with, we're going to take broadhead name out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if a mechanical broadhead flies more like a field tip, right, in general, then the average Joe that picks up a bow from, let's say, not a professional archery shop, but buys it off of a big box store, basic setup, goes and screws them on and shoots and kills his first deer that has a half a horn on his head, because he makes a decent shot because of the broadhead, I'm happy.
Yeah,
If he screwed
wouldn't
on the
be.
same single bevel, two blade, whatever, that arrow may not fly out of his bow.
Yeah.
Not knocking the broadhead. It's not the broadhead's fault. But a lot of people out here today, the average Joe bow hunter, don't tune to the and doesn't work to the what we do.
Oh, that's another rabbit hole that we could go down
Oh,
for
Yeah,
hours.
dude.
for sure.
I'd
But
be
what I'm
divorced if we
saying
went down
is,
that rabbit hole.
what
Yeah.
my process on this is that if that broadhead does the damage it does for us, the average Joe bow hunter that doesn't shoot very often, doesn't practice very often, and doesn't have a bow that's tuned perfectly, can still kill animals. Why not shoot
Yeah.
that broadhead?
Yeah, and that's
Well,
the downside. And sorry, Eric, I didn't mean
no, you're fine.
to interrupt, but from a Bowtech standpoint, like John,
Yeah.
and I guess we should take and put a little emphasis on this, at least for a small section here. That's the downside of a fixed blade, and especially a big cutting fixed blade. Yes, you can take a bow to the bow shop. Yes, they can paper tune it, get it to shoot a good hole. You can go out and shoot 20 yards and shoot well, but a lot of archers, maybe the majority of archers that shoot a fixed
100%.
blade, don't put the time that it requires to shoot the fixed blade
Like it should.
effectively. Yes, we can.
100%.
Yes, we can. You know, get it to shoot a good hole in paper, but there's more to it than that.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
You need to take that head home. You need to shoot it at 20 and 30 and 40 yards. And if it's not hitting with your field points, take good notes
Group tune it.
and,
That's
and
right.
group tune it. All
100%.
right, so I can shoot at 40 yards. At 20 yards, my fixed heads hit with my field points, but at 40, they're 3 inches right. Okay, well, I know what I need to do as the Bowtech in order to fix that. But
Yep.
you can't do that in every shop. So
No.
Bowtechs
Yeah.
get a bad name because, man, my fixed blades won't hit with my field tips. Or the
Yep.
broadhead itself gets a bad name because my fixed blades won't hit with my field tip. Well, when did you find that out? Well, I shot a deer in the butt.
That's what I was getting at. It hasn't, so much. There's no names in this. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, this
I
is
shoot
everybody.
G5. Everybody knows I shoot G5. I've shot them since the beginning. Robbie knows that since they, come through. I actually shot I was a 3-blade guy, no matter what, right? And so I actually tried the Rage 3-blade. I didn't like it. And so I went to a different, which Rocket made a 3-blade that I loved for the longest time, mechanical. And I shot it for a while, and I shot, several fixed blades. But at the same time, like Robbie just went through, I know the steps to make one shoot. And I know people who right now that may not know the steps, but what they do is they'll practice, and they sight in with their broadhead. And then they can hit everything they want to with a broadhead. Maybe the most common I've seen lately is a little low and a little right. Right? And as you back up, that little low and little right gets bigger. But if you sight in for it, then it works fine. So I know people who do that too.
The
that's
downside to sighting into that is if you're not careful, you sight into one distance, and as you work your way back, that changes. So
there's. I mean, we can go into tuning issues for days on different things, but my point being is that
best way to fix that.
Yeah, screw a
Shoot a Mega Meat.
There you go.
Screw a mechanical broadhead.
Well, I mean, you guys are right though, man. And like to, I guess, wrap up the whole broadhead debate, if we're even going to call it that. I had to learn it the hard way, right? Like I came up and was like, oh, Rage. And a certain person that we all know who will not be named set me up terribly, and I'm shooting the 2.3 Rage at 40 pounds. Had no idea. 325 grain arrow, had no idea what I was doing. So I had to learn, then, so I go from that, then I go to, what did I shoot? I forget what fixed blade. I want to say the Montec, right? So then I'm shooting my bow with the Montec. Or no, it was the Exodus. And I was shooting the Exodus. I had no idea how to broadhead tune. And these arrows are hitting 6, 7 inches left. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm just going to move my sight over, and everything was fine. But throughout the past 3.5, 4 years, looking stuff up, especially after starting the podcast and, getting to know guys like you better.
Talk to people.
And, yeah, I've learned just from trial and error what methods work and what methods don't. And, dude, I'll tell you right now, man, I will shoot any broadhead just to test it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I prefer VPA for fixed blades and I prefer G5 for mechanicals, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't test out a new Sever or a new Rage I'm not a huge Schwacker fan, but I would still try it just for fun. It's the thing is, like, people, if you're going to use a fixed blade, I feel like when they buy that, whoever sells it to them needs to tell them, this will not fly like your field point. So
there's some work that's got to go into
it. Exactly. You need to know how to tune this. If you don't, go to your local bow shop. If you're at your local bow shop, ask the guy. It's not that hard.
I'm sorry to throw a plug in the middle of a point that you're making, but it's it's going to go with the point that you're making. Mm-hmm. Go to your local bow shop.
Yep.
Don't go to your local bow shop September 1st and expect that you're going to be able to get 3 hours.
Nah, man. I've done that.
As archers, and I'm an archer first, now is when that stuff should happen.
100%.
Not
That's
September.
Why I'm doing it now.
And I hope those that are listening to this will somewhat understand, because I don't know if I'm good or not. I don't know if I'm good at what I do or not, but I seem to have a decent amount of people that call and at least ask questions and bring me their bows for me to work on.
I know you just didn't say that.
So what I'm saying though is I'm one person. All right. Yep. So right now there's currently one bow tech in my shop, and that is me.
Mm-hmm.
I got a young lady that helps me. She can do some receiving. She can do some price tagging. She can tie a day loop. She can tie some peeps. But for her to know what to do when a broadhead is hitting left at 30 versus a field point, she doesn't know that. At September 1st, have you, John, Jim, Bob, Bill, Bo, and several others that are waiting. You owe it to yourself as the archer and the deer that you're hunting to do that sort of stuff now.
Yep.
And if you have enough respect for the animal that you're chasing,
yes.
And I guess it ultimately goes down to the respect of the animal that you're chasing. Now's when you should do that. Okay.
100%.
Now, I said a while ago, if you want to fix your bad broadhead flight by throwing a mega meat on, don't get me wrong, mega meats won't always hit with their field tips if their bows are bad.
Jacked up.
Or you got some grip issues going on, or whatever.
There's a lot of
because there's a surface area there on a mega meat that's, if you got real bad arrow flight with a fixed blade and you're trying to clean it up with just changing broadhead, a dead meat would be a better option, because there's less surface area on the front of that front of that head to create the arrow to plane one way or another. So if that's going to be the fix, then you better go to a smaller cut mechanical.
There's a lot to it, dude.
114 days, 9 hours, 45 minutes, and 11 seconds and counting. And you can find that time countdown on the front page of GeorgiaArchery.com.
So everybody that's listening to this, and my wife just texted me and said that the BLTs and the French fries are getting cold, so I'm going to have to wind this up.
Yeah, I've got to go help my wife unload her car.
See, we all have to do our thing. But
get to your local bow shop.
Look,
tune into the Southeastern Bowhunter podcast and I'm sure it's probably like a lot like the Georgia Archer podcast.
Yep.
You can find it on just about any podcast platform that's out there. I prefer Spotify because I am a Spotify user. Go to your local bow shop. Get your stuff worked on now. Do not wait till September 1st. Tune into the Southeastern Bowhunter podcast. Tune into the Georgia Archery podcast. 229-800-6972. You can call Shiver Outdoor and Archery 770. John's going to have to finish it because I don't remember the number today.
464-3354.
Yeah. Ask questions.
That's right.
Find you somebody that you can trust. Get your stuff worked on now. Don't wait, which we as guys tend to do.
Procrastinate? Nah.
But it's not a good idea.
Yep.
I am the worst at it, man. And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm getting John and Mark to put some new strings on my obsession back here, and I'm trying to get ready. But honestly, guys, I want to thank y'all for doing this. I want to do this again soon, and as you guys probably know, if you've listened to the episodes, in every single intro, I always have to give credit to my boy JC, Mr. Jesus Christ. So if you don't mind, I just want to give a shout out, to him and give him all the glory. Because honestly, what we're doing right now would not be able to have happened if it wasn't for him. So I had to throw that in there. And all the guests that we've had on the podcast, including you guys now, which is fantastic. Again, it wouldn't have happened without him. So yeah, man, I want to do this again if you guys don't mind. Like,
dude, I'm down like 4 flats. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, because there's so many more things we could talk about.
Well, see, there's in the works will be a live stream with multi people in the works. That's
John's a technical guru. If
you tell me when that happens, and I'll set.
We're working on it. Like I said, well, you already got. Look, Robbie, I snuck him the link, so you just send him a text message. Say, man, I can't make it. Let him fill in for you.
Okay.
I'll do it.
I don't know anything about Target. Times like this.
Oh, for sure. It's
like this week is my daughter's birthday week, so it's kind of like, all right, am I going to be able to force this in and not do this on Thursday, or am I going to have to put this off to Thursday? There's times that it's
scheduling is crazy. Yeah, honestly, that's the hardest part.
Especially when you're trying to do something every week.
Oh, exactly.
And you got 2 people, 3 people, 4 people that you're trying to. I mean, it can get tough.
For sure, but I appreciate everything. Like you said, if you you can find the Southeast Bowhunter podcast on YouTube podcast. It's on Spotify. I think you use Anchor. So
Spotify for podcasters. So basically, same thing.
But multi places you can find Georgia Archery wherever you find Georgia Archery at. If you have an information or you saw something you want us to talk about, Robbie hit it last time. You want to talk about arrows, bows, whatever. Be sure to send us an email, send us a message, georgiaarchery@gmail.com. And you can find the calendar, if anything else, on the website. This stuff goes out live onto YouTube, the video version, and the audio is up soon. I appreciate it very much. I just want to say one other thing is we do not need to be divided. So if a guy shoots a 2-pointer, celebrate the hunt, not the thing. Take somebody, teach them how to shoot a bow. It'll last them a lifetime. Until next time, I'm Big John.
And I'm Robbie.
We'll see ya.
Later, boys.
See you, bud.